Have you ever wondered why people know exactly what it is that they need to do, but still they don't do it? It has to deal with something called cognitive dissonance, which ultimately leads to self-sabotage. And cognitive dissonance theory was introduced by Leon Festinger in 1957, where he proposed this idea of, hey, there are two simultaneous paths occurring at once within someone's mind, where there's this moral code, this righteous belief system that we hold true to our values, and then there's our actions that may or may not align. And typically what cognitive dissonance goes into is when we choose the path that doesn't align with our true self or our nature or our belief system, moral code, integrity, we feel and experience what is called dissonance, this kind of internal conflict and dilemma that we then try to sweep under the rug with excuses, with reasoning to help align our moral code, if that makes any sense. So this is a very big issue nowadays, and it's always been something that people have battled with. It's part of being human, knowing what is right for you and then choosing another path. Smoking is a great example of this. When people smoke, a lot of times they know in their minds and their hearts that they shouldn't be smoking, that it's not healthy for them. And most of the time, a lot of people find themselves trying to quit smoking, and they battle with this cognitive dissonance on their journey because the urge, the temptation is strong, but they know that they shouldn't do it. Their family is more important. Their health is more important. They want to feel better, and they know smoking is causing them to feel worse, right? So they end up having this battle because they're addicted and they have the urge. And when they choose to go with the temptation, they feel a sense of guilt, which is dissonance. And with that guilt, now they're put in the position of, hey, how do I make myself sort of feel more comfortable from that internal conflict and discomfort? So that's probably the most notable example of what cognitive dissonance is and how it leads to self-sabotage, because people ultimately start to develop these self-sabotage situations and environments in their own worlds because they aren't following what their belief and their value system is based on. And a lot of times this can do with how we're raised, and we are raised a certain way and we're programmed a certain way growing up. It establishes our innate belief systems. We have our own subconscious and unconscious minds that have their own way of manifesting themselves in our own world. And when you start to find yourself going against whatever it is that you know is right, that's when these problems arise. So what can you do? And before I go into solutions to actually help you overcome cognitive dissonance, I want to suffice two things. One, to keep it super simple, there's a term here that I basically wrote down to keep this very simple, to really sum all of what I just went into. And it has to deal with cognitive dissonance being this fix it or fake it. That's kind of the paths of moving forward that you're dealing with here when it comes to cognitive dissonance. You rather fix the issue or you fake it, you lie to yourself because it sweeps it under the rug and allows you to feel that level of righteousness and hold on to this illusion that makes you feel still morally compatible with yourself. And that's what this all comes down to. It all comes back to you. It comes back to how you see yourself, how you feel about yourself. And a lot of us know what we need to do to truly love ourselves, but we don't want to take the actions necessary to embody self-love. So instead, we choose these paths of least resistance and begin to create these lies to protect ourselves. And I had one of my old baseball coaches back in my past life told me this. He said, when you lie, you build into the future, something that is built into the future that you have to keep on protecting moving forward. A lie is the thing of the future. The truth is a thing of the past. Meaning when you tell the truth, you can move on, you can move forward with freedom. But when you tell a lie, you push it into the future and you essentially become a slave to your own lies. So I want to inspire all of you to tell the truth and ultimately live in your truth, which is what we're dealing with, these simultaneous roads. And if we want to look at it on a metaphysical sense, we can see it as higher self versus lower self. Lower self wants to wake up, grab the phone, scrolling, masturbation, do these lower vibrational root chakra decisions. Higher self is more in the ultimate knowing of what is good for you. Your spirit knows what is good for you, your soul knows, right? And this is more of a metaphysical approach to this issue of cognitive dissonance. And when you choose higher self, you're ultimately filling up the vase of your soul to water the world more with your essence. You're able to give more the more you feed your higher self. And how do you really do this is by saying no. Master the power of no, and you become stronger. So let's get into some actual just basic solutions that are just very practical. What can you do when you're faced with these situations to improve your own ability to battle and manage this cognitive dissonance, and kind of balancing these neglects of these two roads and not knowing which way or how to handle and what should I do to start to act and be in my higher self or in your moral compass. And number one is, we call them if-then statements. If-then statements are designed for you to anticipate the moment of dissonance into the future. So for example, a lot of people have long work days. They work a long work day, and that is their justification. At the end of the day, they know that, hey, I worked a long work day, I'm allowed to smoke because I worked a long day, but I know I shouldn't, but I worked hard today, I deserve a smoke. I know it's not good for me, but I worked hard today, so I'm just gonna rip a heater. That's cognitive dissonance, right? You're lying to yourself to justify the action that goes against what you know is good for you. And ultimately, when you are using if-then statements, what you do here is you say, if I feel the urge to smoke after work, then I'm gonna go for a 10-minute walk, right? Let's say on the alcoholic level, if I feel the urge to drink after work, then I will get up and make a tea instead. I'll drink a tea instead. You are basically visualizing, utilizing if-then statements to help you diminish the urge and preparation for it, right? Because proper preparation breeds excellence, and ultimately using if-then statements allows you to prepare for the inevitable moment of dissonance, where you can kind of condition your brain utilizing if-then statements to make the right decision for your soul, your higher self, for the belief system that is actually aligned with you. So that's number one, if-then statement. So if is practically your obstacle, the then becomes your solution, right? And that has to deal with the next step, which is behavioral substitution, where behavioral substitution is essentially you're swapping one habit for another. A great example of this, we'll just stick with the smoking theme, is when you feel the urge to smoke. If you want to quit your addiction because you know you're self-sabotaging yourself, just quitting it cold turkey and expecting that to be an efficient way of removing a habit will tend to be very, very challenging. But if you substitute it for another habit, it becomes a little more practical, a little easier. And this is something that has been coined over a while now. People have utilized this technique. So when you're smoking, if you feel the urge to smoke, instead of smoking, I'm gonna do a breathing exercise, right? I'm gonna practice doing deep breathing when I feel the urge. Or people that chew tobacco, it's a very common thing for them to substitute chewing tobacco with gum, right? They will start chewing gum instead of chewing tobacco. Substitution is a powerful technique in any addiction, but primarily self-sabotage, cognitive dissonance, when we're talking about these these two roads that we're faced with in our own minds. Substituting the behavior that's causing dissonance can be very effective when you're doing it with another thing. So another example, masturbation. If you feel the urge to masturbate in the morning, instead of doing that, substitute it with push-ups. Okay, I'm gonna do 10 push-ups. When I feel like I want to just cave in to my temptation, into my lower self, into that path that I know will create this level of dissonance, and I have to kind of cover up my own action to make me feel better, do push-ups, right? So that's behavioral substitution, a great practice, great technique. Acceptance and commitment therapy is something I found in my research, which has to deal with resistance. This is the next tip, is do not feed into resistance, because resistance grows the beast. The more you resist the monster, the stronger the monster becomes. So treat your temptation, your urge, and whatever it is that you're doing with compassion. If you feel, we'll just stick with the smoking example, if you feel a strong urge to smoke and you know you don't want to, you know you shouldn't, do not resist the urge. Visualize yourself essentially sitting there, letting it express itself as an entity. You can visualize your shortcomings as its own being, as its own entity, almost as a figure, a person, and just they're expressing that to you, right? And let them get it out. And that's like an internal way of separating from the actual problem that you're dealing with, right? Because a lot of times this self-sabotage has to deal with, we're just caught in this loop and we do not have self-control to get ourselves out of that loop. And when you're able to visualize compassion towards whatever it is that you're dealing with, it allows it to just be, versus resisting, you're trying to push it away, it becomes stronger. So that's like this whole idea of acceptance and commitment therapy, is just accept what it is that you're dealing with rather than fighting it. Next up is self-affirmation theory. Practically what self-affirmation theory is, this was identified in 1988 by a gentleman named Claude Steele, and he says how you affirm core personal values, like positive affirmations following your slip up. So when you slip up on whatever it is that you're doing, you affirm to yourself something positive. Maybe you say, hey, I know I just smoked, but I am working on being healthier. I am going to work on being healthier. You tell yourself something positive after you do the thing that you know you shouldn't have done, or the thing that has created the dissonance within you. So what this does is, when you feed negativity, it builds more negativity. It becomes harder to essentially get out of that loop. So when you focus on positive affirmations rather than being so negative on yourself, basically what this theory states is you're more likely to have a positive feedback to making that change. And that's a good practical tip. So whatever it is that's causing the dissonance, having the awareness of it, most of you guys know what it is that you're doing that's causing you to be in this loop. But when you're able to be positive on yourself after caving in, because you know you should do it, like you know what to do. Like the essence of this video is, like, why do people know what they need to do to be better, but they still don't do it, right? Like most of you guys know. And there's many reasons to why, but ultimately there's this theory of cognitive dissonance that we're going into that explains this issue and how people kind of numb themselves from their truth. And by having the awareness of the problem and then affirming something positive after you slip up or cave in, versus beating yourself up, you know, because ultimately when you start feeling negative and depressed, you're more likely to look for short-term solutions that are short-lived, like porn, smoking, alcohol, gambling, even things that create stimuli, because we're working in this world of dopamine stimulus. You know, doom scrolling now is its own monster. So that is self-affirmation theory. Last but not least, this is from a book called Atomic Habits by James Clear, and he talks about how changing your identity to match your higher self, practically to match the being that you're trying to become, match your true authentic self, right? So utilizing I am statements are extremely powerful in terms of doing this. So instead of saying I want to quit smoking, say I am a non-smoker. Take on the form of the person you want to become. So if you can visualize this on top of it and close your eyes, and every morning visualize, or night, visualize yourself through these I am statements of who you're wanting to become. But just remember, when we use the word want or need or we're putting this subject out into the future, acknowledging that we are not. We're acknowledging lack. So abundance versus lack, this is a very important point, right? When you're living in lack, you're putting something out into the future, acknowledging to your subconscious mind that you do not have it. When you're living in abundance, you become present and you acknowledge that you are the all-being, you are the higher self, you are the road that will ultimately serve your belief system, your soul, and overall truth. And when you start utilizing I am statements and shape that with your perceived desired reality, you end up taking on that form. And so I want to be healthy, I want to stop drinking, I want to stop masturbation. On the other, that's pushing out lack into the like, you're acknowledging lack by acknowledging something in the future you want to become that you are not. But when you say I am free of masturbation, I am not a drinker, I am a healthy person, you acknowledge to yourself your truth in the moment, making it more likely to take on that identity, take on that form, and ultimately vibrate in that vibrational frequency of abundance. So I hope this was valuable. Those are some solutions. This is on cognitive dissonance, dealing with these two paths that we're faced with on a daily basis. One that we know we should not go on, the path of least resistance, and then the path that we know will serve our greatest good, our truth, our moral code, our integrity, and higher self. So I hope this was valuable for you guys. Please like, subscribe, and share this. I'm going to be making more of content that is tailored to helping you guys dive into some of these ideas. I just started a Patreon too. I'm working to build out a community where we can dive into your specific problems there, and whatever the community wants to go into, I'll go ahead and give an analysis and do a deep dive on that to prepare exclusively for the community. And I know a lot of people are dealing with a lot of problems, and I'm just grateful to be here as a servant to you guys to help you improve your journey, become your highest self, your greatest version, and begin to fix these problems, live in your truth versus fake them, and continue to push the lie forward into the future. So hope this was valuable. I'm sending you all lots of love, gratitude, and amazing energy. Please like, subscribe, and follow for more. My name is Andreas, aka Andreas Talks, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.